Have you ever wondered about the people behind the scenes, the unsung heroes who made incredible things possible? In the story of Jesus and his disciples, we often hear about Peter, John, and Mary Magdalene, but there's another name, a woman of significant influence and quiet strength, whose story deserves to be told. Joanna. Who was she, and why is her contribution so pivotal to the early Christian movement? Let's dive deep into the life of this remarkable woman. To truly understand Joanna, we need to picture the world she lived in. This was 1st century Judea, a land under Roman rule, but with a complex local power structure. Ruling over the region of Galilee was Herod Antipas, a tetrarch known for his political maneuvering and lavish court. And it's right here, in the heart of Herod's palace, that we find Joanna. The Gospel of Luke introduces her as Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's household manager. This isn't just a casual detail. It's a bombshell. Chuza was a high-ranking official, essentially the chief steward of Herod's entire estate. This means Joanna wasn't a poor peasant or a simple village woman. She was part of the elite, living a life of privilege and proximity to power. She would have been accustomed to the intricate politics, the luxury, and the often brutal realities of Herod's court. This is the same Herod who had John the Baptist imprisoned and executed. The palace was a place of intrigue and moral compromise. Yet, from this unlikely environment, Joanna emerges. How did a woman from the inner circle of Jesus' political enemy become one of his most dedicated followers? The Bible doesn't give us a step-by-step account, but we can connect the dots. Jesus' ministry was creating waves all across Galilee. His teachings and miracles were the talk of the town, from the fishing villages of Capernaum to the halls of power in Tiberias. It's highly probable that news of this charismatic teacher reached the palace. Perhaps Joanna heard first-hand accounts from guards, servants, or even from Herod himself, who was both curious and threatened by Jesus. Maybe she, or someone close to her, was healed by Jesus. Luke's Gospel mentions that among the women following Jesus were some who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. While it doesn't name Joanna specifically in that context, it's a strong possibility. Imagine the contrast: a life in a palace filled with earthly power but spiritual emptiness, and then an encounter with a man who offered true healing and a kingdom not of this world. Whatever the catalyst, Joanna made a radical choice. She chose to leave the comfort and security of her life to follow an itinerant preacher who was challenging the very system her husband served. This decision wasn't just a matter of personal belief. It had enormous practical implications. And this is where Joanna's role becomes truly unique. The Gospel of Luke tells us that Joanna, along with Mary Magdalene, Susanna, and many others, were supporting Jesus and his disciples out of their own means. Let's pause and think about what that really meant. Jesus and the 12 disciples had left their jobs. They were traveling, preaching, and ministering full-time. This required food, lodging, and resources. Who paid for all of this? Joanna and these other women did. They were the financial backbone of the ministry. Joanna, with her access to wealth from her position in society, was essentially a primary sponsor of Jesus's work. Her faith wasn't just a feeling, it was a tangible, active, and generous commitment. She put her money where her heart was, using her worldly resources to fuel a divine mission. This act of practical support is a powerful form of discipleship that often goes unnoticed. Her journey of faith didn't end with financial support. Joanna was part of the inner circle of followers who traveled with Jesus. She wasn't just a distant benefactor. She was on the ground, listening to his teachings firsthand. She heard the parables, witnessed the miracles, and absorbed the radical message of love and sacrifice. She was there through the triumphs and the trials. and her commitment would be tested in the most profound way possible during the events of the Passion Week in Jerusalem. When Jesus was arrested, tried, and crucified, many of his male disciples scattered in fear. But the women, including Joanna, remained. The Gospels paint a clear picture of their unwavering loyalty. They followed him to the cross and watched in agony as he died. Their devotion didn't falter even in the face of brutal Roman execution. They were steadfast, their love and grief keeping them present at the darkest hour. But their service was not yet over. After Jesus' body was taken down from the cross, it was these same women who took note of where he was buried. They went home to prepare spices and perfumes to properly anoint his body. An essential Jewish burial custom they intended to perform as a final act of love and respect. And this leads us to the climax of Joanna's story and her most significant role in history. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, Joanna, Mary Magdalene, and the other women went to the tomb. They weren't expecting a miracle. They were expecting to perform a burial rite. They were carrying spices, heavy with grief, ready to anoint a dead body. But when they arrived, they found the stone rolled away and the tomb empty. While they were perplexed, two angels appeared in dazzling clothes, asking them, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen." The angels then reminded them of Jesus' own words, how he had foretold his death and resurrection. In that moment, everything changed. Grief turned to astonishment, and despair turned to incredible hope. What did they do next? The Gospel of Luke tells us they returned from the tomb and told all these things to the 11 and to all the rest. Joanna was among the very first messengers of the resurrection. She was an apostle to the apostles, commissioned by angels to deliver the most important news in human history. Think about the courage that took. In that culture, a woman's testimony was not considered reliable in a legal sense. Yet, they ran, filled with a divine mandate, to tell the male disciples what they had seen and heard. Initially, the men dismissed their story as an idle tale and did not believe them, but the women persisted. Their eyewitness account was the spark that sent Peter and John running to the tomb to see for themselves. Joanna, the woman from Herod's court, became a foundational witness to the cornerstone of the Christian faith, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Her journey is a breathtaking arc of transformation. She moved from the palace of a corrupt king to the inner circle of the King of Kings. She used her wealth not for personal luxury, but to bankroll a spiritual revolution. She stood firm when others fled, and she was chosen to be one of the first heralds of the new creation. Joanna's story teaches us so much. It shows that faith can blossom in the most unexpected places, even in corridors of power hostile to God. It demonstrates that true discipleship involves practical, tangible action. It's about using whatever resources we have, our time, our talents, our money, for the sake of the gospel. And it reminds us that God often chooses those the world might overlook to play the most crucial roles in his divine drama. Joanna wasn't a preacher or a public leader in the traditional sense, but without her and the other women, the ministry of Jesus as we know it would not have been possible. She is a testament to a faith that is courageous, generous, and steadfast. She is Joanna, a pillar of the early church, and an inspiring example for all who seek to follow Jesus today. Thank you for watching. If you found this story inspiring, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden figures of history.